Battle through the heavens, Grand World. Chapter 178 Overwhelming Strength. Second Company Leader. When they saw the old man being sent flying by Xiao Yan, the two middle-aged men were shocked. Their heads buzzed, and their movements couldn't help but slow down. The Xiao Ao, who had been playing with the two middle-aged men, also noticed Xiao Yan's actions. Immediately, it let out an excited howl, and flames surged out from its body. Like a flaming meteor, it rushed towards the two middle-aged men who were in a daze. Dong! With the strength of the Xiao Ao, it naturally easily knocked one of the middle-aged men flying backwards. Along the way, it violently spat out fresh blood. Finally, it violently smashed into a towering rock. It did not even let out a miserable cry as it fell to the ground without any signs of life. The other middle-aged man, who was suddenly jolted awake by the sudden rampage of the Xiao Ao, recovered his senses. He looked at the Xiao Ao in front of him, which was filled with pride after easily killing an enemy, and immediately felt his scalp go numb. This man and beast, both of them were actually so powerful. The hand that was holding the machete trembled slightly. The middle-aged man looked at the flames burning on the Xiao Ao's body. His expression couldn't help but become dull. The people who had lived in this region, they were all cruel and merciless masters, but they were also human beings. When facing an undefeatable opponent, they would also feel fear. At this moment, the middle-aged man was surrounded by fear. His back was covered in cold sweat. The Xiao Ao shook its big head, and looked at the frightened middle-aged man. It let out a proud howl, and then looked at the latter with a mocking gaze. Then, it began to play with him like a cat playing with a mouse. Puff! The hunchbacked old man was sent flying by Xiao Yan's sudden burst of strength. Both of his hands were roasted by the flame. Although he had the protection of the Origin Monarch key, his hands were still charred black. Both of his arms were trembling, and the pain was unbearable. The hunchbacked old man forcefully stopped his flying body. He was gasping for breath as he looked at the expressionless Xiao Yan in the distance. There was an unconcealable shock on his face. A moment ago, he had the upper hand, but now, he was actually sent flying. This huge gap had caused the old man to be dumbfounded. After sensing Xiao Yan's current strength, the old man was even more shocked. Just now, he was only at the monarch spirit level, but now, he had actually reached the emperor realm. Could it be some secret arts? Thinking of this, the shock in the old man's eyes was quickly replaced by greed. In this chaotic region, every treasure that could increase one's strength would attract countless people to chase after it. This would cause a bloody storm. This young man's secret arts could actually allow a monarch spirit to reach the level of an emperor. Such a treasure was placed in some big castles. In the center of the star-severing mountain range. It must be a rare treasure. It wouldn't be a problem to auction it for tens of millions of monarch crystals in the auction hall. The weapon of that high-grade spirit weapon, the secret arts, that strange flame, and the spirit beast over there. This kid is full of treasures. The old man also noticed that the Xiao Ao had killed one of his subordinates in an instant. His pupils suddenly shrunk as shock flashed across his eyes. This spirit beast had killed a subordinate whose strength had reached the peak of monarch spirit with a single strike. It was likely that this spirit beast was not simple. While the old man was deep in thought, Xiao Yan sensed the majestic Origin Monarch key flowing within his body. He shook his hand and a powerful force suddenly appeared. An incomparably pleasant feeling arose spontaneously. At this moment, Xiao Yan even gave off the aura of an emperor. He took a deep breath and calmed his excited mood. He looked at the hunchbacked old man who was not far away from him. The old man also looked at him with a gloomy expression. How is it? It feels different to be sent flying by a monarch spirit. A sneer emerged on Xiao Yan's face. He wasn't in a hurry to attack. As he spoke, he also familiarized himself with the sudden increase in strength. What a glib tongue. The old man let out a cold snort, as if he had seen through Xiao Yan's plan. His right foot stomped on the ground violently, then he rushed towards Xiao Yan. The ki in his body increased once again, reaching an extremely fierce level. The strength of a peak of Monarch King was completely unleashed. Along the way, the old man's hands began to form hand seals at an extremely fast speed. In just a moment, the place where the old man's hands were placed was filled with a faint earthen yellow light. The Origin Monarch key around his body was vibrating intensely because of this earthen yellow light. Sharp gravel quietly appeared around the old man's body. The earthen yellow light suddenly shook. In an instant, within 2 meters around the old man, countless thumb-sized stones appeared. The old man smiled maliciously at the palm-sized stone. He waved his hand and a deep voice resounded in Xiao Yan's ears, 10,000 rock corroding the heart. The moment he said that, hundreds of sharp rocks shot through the air like shooting stars. They flew towards Xiao Yan, who was not far away. Along the way, the air vibrated and there was a shocking sound of air exploding. After casting the monarch skill, the old man didn't stop at all. He clenched his fist in the air, and a huge earthen yellow sword condensed from origin monarch key appeared in his hand. The blade vibrated intensely as the old man waved it, as if it had formed a response to the heaven and earth. An emperor expert was already able to communicate with the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth and use it for himself. For a peak of monarch king expert like the hunchbacked old man, he was already very familiar with this kind of usage. The huge yellow sword buzzed. Under the hunchbacked old man's control, it roared out like a fierce dragon that had gone out to sea. The sharp blade of the sword was filled with a murderous aura. It pierced through the numerous sharp stones that shot towards Xiao Yan and slashed horizontally. When the old man moved, Xiao Yan had already sensed it with all his heart and soul. When the old man activated the monarch skill, Xiao Yan looked at the gravel that seemed to cover the sky and cover the earth and frowned. The armor that was condensed from origin monarch key instantly appeared on his body, and under the illumination of the crimson gold flame, it illuminated Yu. Swish! Xiao Yan extended both of his hands. The surface of the armor was already covered with dense origin monarch key. When the shattered rocks were about to hit him, Xiao Yan slowly closed his eyes. Powerful spiritual strength surged out from between his brows. An even clearer scene appeared in his mind. Even the attacking root of every rock was reflected. Xiao Yan laughed coldly, then closed his eyes. His hands were as fast as lightning, blocking the stones that were shooting at him. Under the joint effect of the origin monarch key and monarch flames on his palms, the moment these rock fragments came into contact with Xiao Yan's palm, they had completely turned into powder and dissipated. This feeling, it was as if he had returned to the past when Yao Lao was instructing him on how to react. Swiftly, clang! Just as Xiao Yan was completely focused on defending against these crushed stones, a cold feeling suddenly rose in his heart. His soul power, which far exceeded that of an ordinary person, also sensed it at the first moment. His right hand, which had been stretched forward, suddenly stopped. Almost at the same time, an earthen yellow blade whistled down. Under the observation of Xiao Yan's powerful soul, where the blade passed by, there was actually a trace of space being sliced through. It was hard to imagine that if the blade hit him then with origin monarch key recovery speed he would still suffer severe injuries. Thinking of this, the only trace of pride in Xiao Yan's heart vanished. The technique of an emperor was indeed not something he could predict at this moment. Immediately, he let out a furious roar, and all the crimson gold flames on his body expanded. In just a few blinks of an eye, he had burned all the broken rocks around him into ashes. The giant yellow sword that the old man was holding tightly dodged the attack. Faint spiritual light kept circulating on the surface of the blade. It looked like it was not inferior to a middle-grade spirit weapon. He actually dodged it. Seeing that Xiao Yan did not suffer any injuries, the huge sword that he had used up a lot of origin monarch key to form also returned with no results. This caused the old man's expression to change, and his gaze towards Xiao Yan was filled with astonishment. Hey! Before the old man could recover from his shock, Xiao Yan suddenly moved. By the time the old man realized what was happening, Xiao Yan's powerful leg had already appeared in front of him. Chapter end. Hi guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.